The Conor Bradley thing, of course, is massively interesting. I see a few people in our comments talking about how they're very high on Conor as a straight up replacement. There is a reality with Conor Bradley that we have to face, which is that his availability hasn't been great. I think he's played less than half of the games that he's been around for. That's very real. That's a real thing. A lot of people dismiss that, Jan, and say, well, it's a young man, his body's developing. And some people say that that's a thing you can you outgrow it as such. Others are very, very cagey and cautious about that because, availability is the best ability and all that kind of stuff. Where do you land on Conor as do you see him as capable of stepping straight in? Obviously, let's not talk about creativity. Nobody compares to Trent Alexander-Arnold in that regard in world football, who plays in that position, if we're being perfectly honest. Although the kid at PSG last night looks pretty good, Hakimi. But the range of passing and all that, nobody's like Trent. So it's not a like for like. We get that. But Bradley is very strong going forward. He does offer a lot of impetus. He's just a very 100 miles an hour type of client, isn't he? By comparison with Trent, who's a bit more of a stroller. What do you think? Is he the heir apparent?
So, and it might not be a popular opinion, but Bradley will never be Trent. That's for sure. And the people who think are kidding themselves. We're talking about two different players. And I also think we discussed this on the show and at how they play. So Trent is a passer. So Trent can pass the ball and give it away and be out of position. Whereas Conor Bradley's a carrier, isn't he? He carries the ball. So if he loses the ball, he is more often than not still close to the ball. He's still close to the situation. So his recovery will always be better. I mean, how many times have we criticised Trent for that? His recovery. But that's because sometimes he's trying to ping a 60-yard ball that gets intercepted and he's out of position. Bang. He can't get close. He can't get close to the ball. He can't get close to the man he's meant to mark. And that's the difference. Whereas Conor with his carrying. If Liverpool do nothing else, Trevor, if they do nothing else in the transfer market, they will not start next season with only Conor Bradley as a right-back option. If Liverpool are going to sign one player in the summer, it'll be a right-back. I'll guarantee you that.
That's really interesting because we have talked before about how left-back could well be a priority. Andy Robertson's out there in the press trying to drum up a new contract for himself in terms of talking to people about giving him a bit of support like Virgil got, like Mo got. It's a whole different ball game. But Robbo's Robbo. We spoke on the last show about his self-confidence is going to make sure that he's going to keep saying things like that. He believes he can still be the best man for the job next season. But you get the impression one of those two guys that are currently the options will move on. The right back situation, though, if you reckon it's likely, who do you like? The ones that are being mentioned are Kirkes for the far side and Frimpong for the right. And people who are familiar with Frimpong's game are very excited by his attacking prospects, but not at all by what he does defensively, claiming that he's more of a winger type. If we go for a different system, maybe we have a more defensive right back or a more defensive left back, and we split it a little bit. It depends really on who's signed for the opposite side. What do you think of the current availability of right backs? Is there anyone that's jumping out at you that might be a realistic get for us?
It's funny enough you should say that, because as much as I just said that if Liverpool, they will sign a right back, I haven't really looked into that much, but I have seen the Frimpong link, and I was like you. Whoa, I thought we were going down a different road because of marauding fullbacks. We've had, we had the two best marauding fullbacks in the game. They had an internal competition to create the most goals, most assists in Robbo and Trent, and then the new manager came and we changed the way that we used our fullbacks. So I find that link straight, although I do believe it's genuine. I do believe it's genuine that Liverpool are looking at Frimpong. I believe also has something to do with, yet again, a release clause. So it's an easy transfer. for Liverpool to make. And he is one of those players, Trevor. If you watch Bayer Leverkusen play, he will probably be one of the first players you'll notice because he's an all-action, incredibly quick guy who also weighs in with a few goals. But I like him. I just think that we're looking at a different type of right backs, and I don't know who that is. But that's how I view it. You know what I mean? I mean, for starters, he'd be no good set pieces defending far post because he's no good in the air. But yeah, unbelievable. I mean, unbelievably quick, Trevor. And as I said before, I do believe the interest is real. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. It would not surprise me that Liverpool found a different type, who was less attack minded. Because you talked about different systems, but surely we're always going to play with a flat back four, aren't we? One of the reasons that Arne Slot came in and we weren't keen on Ruben Amorim and maybe even Alonso, isn't it? So surely we're always going to play with a back four. So we're going to need a right back that can also defend. So Frimpong, I believe, is genuine. I still struggle to get my head around it.
Maybe because of the release clause and the comparative value, there's a thought that he could be just a very valuable squad addition. Because, like you say, if the Kirkes rumors are true, we've just gone for two more marauding flank.
Yeah, true enough.
People who are,
but he looks more like a fullback.
Kirkes, yeah.
Yes, because you can have a fullback, and I think Andy Robertson's probably a perfect example. You can have a fullback, an attacking fullback that can still nearly almost be in the right position. Yeah. And I think this Kirkes thing, this Kirkes player is that player. And I also think that Liverpool like the fact that they also see improvement in him. I think they can see he's a good player already. But, sometimes you look at a player and you go, I'd like to see him in 18 months' time because I believe, and I think he falls into that. So as much as I believe the Frimpong thing is for real, this is for real, Trevor. This is going to happen, I think. Kirkes is going to happen. Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's just so much talk about it. I think just people are a little bit put off by the reported fee, but it is what it is. And maybe there's value to be gained elsewhere that you can offset it with. I just want to talk to you briefly about summer plans. We could go into details about the defence there, and we did kind of touch on it last week because we've just mentioned Konate, and Konate is unsettled in terms of the contract, and who knows if the club is just going to draw a line and he's going to be the sacrificial victim in terms of, look, we can't give everyone massive money. Who knows? Andy Robertson wants to stay, but will he be kept on? The respected, inverted commas, journals are saying that he wants to stay on, and we're looking for someone to rival him for that position or to share the time, whatever. So that means probably the other man's going to go. Our Greek lad will be on his bike. Kwanzaa is being linked with a move to Newcastle. That won't go away as a rumour. And Joe Gomez, I think, will have to move because it could be an opportunity for us to get a half decent fee. And Joe, again, his availability is a massive issue. Fantastic footballer all as he is. So there's one area where there could be huge amounts going on. And the one solid link we had across the middle there was the Huijsen link. And I know probably like a lot of people that would have been an exciting one. And I'm sure you shared that opinion. But it looks like he's more heavily linked with Real at the moment. But it's all over the pitch, Jan. We can probably get in. We're being linked with the likes of Stiller for midfield. Maybe Frimpong will play more as a sort of in that area of midfield. But across the top is the next area, which could literally get decimated. Diaz could go. Nunez could go. Jota could go. I don't know that you can let three of them go. But that's where the heaviest links are, Jan, to lots of different players. When you look across the front line, you look at some of the proper number 9s that are available, the likes of Alvarez. The Alvarez thing is the best story that broke during the week. You saw this, yeah? The idea of some sort of a let's massage the figures and do Darwin Núñez the other way. I think, and I know you've said on this show, he could be a perfect fit. Is there anyone else you really like the look of that is actually available? The likes of a Alvarez, Isak, the likes of Sesko, Osman. What are you thinking there?
So if we just go back to Dean Huijsen first, Trevor, because you mentioned him and we've been heavily linked with him. I think that is a decision for the boy to make. You know, I think already now, him and his camp are aware that we can basically pick. You know, they'll all show an interest in him. So it's a decision he's going to make, isn't it? You know, and you know, although he's Dutch, but you know, plays for the Spanish national team, whatever. Real Madrid would be a massive big pull for him. There's no doubt about that. So there's a decision to be made. In terms of the forwards, I think we might do something. Aston Villa did it in January. They made it clear that they were prepared to sell a striker. So they invited offers for both of them, John Duran and Ollie Watkins. And I think that we might be a little bit in the same boat. That we might be in a position where we would quite happy for people to make bids on some of our frontmen, and then we'll make a decision. Of course, we're not going to sell all of them, are we? We're not going to sell all of them, but then we'll have a look at it and see what makes the most sense. I've said before about Julian Alvarez, Atletico Madrid, Trevor, and it was a couple of weeks ago, and I said, and I've just had a new car. I said I'd go and get him myself. You know, because, you know, yeah, but sometimes you just go. He's just rock solid, isn't he? You know what I mean? So he's played in the Premier League. He's South American, so he's got a bit of bite about him, isn't he? He's got class, hasn't he? You know what I mean? He's a goal scorer. He's just got it all, hasn't he? I mean, I just love that type of banker. You know, he's a banker player. If the fee's 100 million, I would be quite prepared to pay 100 million because that's how good he is, isn't he? Alexander Isak is obviously the interesting one. I just don't think winning the Carabao Cup and possibly Newcastle qualifying for the Champions League will be enough. He's 26 years of age. He sees himself as one of the top strikers in the world. So he wants to be competing for more. I believe he's quite keen on Barcelona. It's a big pull for him. Can Barcelona yet again find money from somewhere? The club that has no money? I don't know. The other Streets' boy, the Sport of Lisbon. I don't know, Trevor. Is he a little one-dimensional? I mean, you have to have respect for somebody who scored as many goals as he has. But we've seen this before, haven't we? Scoring goals in Holland, in Belgium, in Portugal. How does that transfer to the other leagues? Benjamin Sesko is a really interesting one. He plays in the Bundesliga, and that is a league that often makes attacking players look better than what they are because of the way that they play in the Bundesliga. And he's not really pulling up any trees, Benjamin. Yes, he looks like potentially a great player. But I'm thinking, even when was the Euros, Trevor, 2024? He didn't have a great Euros. Okay, didn't play for a very good team. But I'm just looking, I'm thinking, I see the talent, but please, you need to show me more. You know, I'm not Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. Again, it's a link that I believe is genuine. I think we're going to be reluctant, Trevor. If any club that are quite prepared to sell has a striker that's half decent, they're going to want big money, aren't they? We've got enough proof of that. You know, Dominic Solanke was 65 million. Manchester United paid 73 million for Rasmus Højlund. We paid 85 million for Darwin Núñez. So I don't know whether Liverpool are. So it's either, you know, we go Alexander Isak and you've got nothing to worry about. Julian Alvarez, you've got nothing to worry about, yeah? Or you find a slightly cheaper option and work on him. And that's where Ekitike comes in, because his stats are really important. Not his scoring stats, because he's a bit of a snatch at the moment. But I think Liverpool are seeing stats of a guy who's getting somewhere in the right positions on the pitch. And we just got to, so I think Hugo Ekitike is a really interesting one, Trevor, because he would be a different fee and he'd certainly be different wages. And we like that, Trevor. Liverpool Football Club like to bring him in on relatively low wages. And if you're going to get big wages at Liverpool Football Club, you get him if you've earned it at Liverpool. That's why, I came back from Paris this morning, Trevor, and I was at Manchester Airport and there was 4 Liverpool fans. Jan, Kevin De Bruyne. And I went, well, there's 2 things against that. His age and his wages, yeah? I said, the wages he'll want is obviously for what he's done at Manchester City. Yeah? Well, that's not how we do it. We have given Mo Salah his wages because of what he's done in Liverpool. So even if the next 2 years are not necessarily great from Salah, at least you'll go, yeah, but we've had 7, 8 great years of him. So I can't see that. So we like to bring in on relatively low wages, and if they do well for us, then we'll improve their wages. And so I think there's some interesting bits there. And I also think that Ekitike it's like a Michael Edwards stroke Richard Hughes signing, isn't it? You know what I mean? The potential is there. He's a keen kid, isn't he? So yeah, interesting. I just can't wait, because I just think that we're going to see a bit of movement in the summer. We're going to see quite a bit of movement in this. It's going to be really interesting.
It feels like, the first summer in ages where there will actually be a proper overhaul, because there's a lot of guys who probably have one eye on the door. And I can't believe I've never spoken to you about cars before, by the way, just as a sidebar. I'm obsessed with cars. It's just a big interest of mine. I could go on for ages about that. But there's another guy I want to focus on, just with the whole transfer thing in mind, before we start looking forward to the Arsenal game and the rest of the season, all the rest of it. And that's Harvey Elliott. And I kind of would like you to maybe put yourself in Harvey's shoes and see what would you be thinking? Because there's apparently believable links with Wolves, with Newcastle, both of whom apparently are quite fond of the idea of Harvey Elliott being a player for them. And you get the impression, don't you, that he could do very, very well at any number of Premier League clubs, decent ones too. But the signs are there that he is probably not going to be anything like a regular starter for Arne Slot, and it's a reality he's going to have to actually face, because I think he's played about 3 full matches worth of minutes this year. And when you think about how regular he used to be on the field for Klopp, it's been a bit of a culture shock for him this year. Yes, there was an injury and all the rest of it, but he had loads of opportunities where he could have been playing and he's not playing. I just wonder what you think you would do in his situation, because apparently he's a big red. He loves the club. He's happy at the club, all those kind of things. But where do you get to that point where you have to make that decision and say, well, look, I need to be playing? He's still comparatively young. What will be your take on what Harvey should do here? Because apparently the club are leaving it to him.
Do you know where most players are happy? When they're playing.
When they're playing.
In the end, yeah. In the end, Trevor. And I've seen that at Anfield, with players. And I'm going to mention a player here, which is a guy called Mike Mars. Do you remember Mike Mars?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Mike Mars was a terrific footballer. He was a great everyday five-a-side, chop five-a-side player. I always got the feeling that Mike Mars playing for the top team in the Premier League, the pitch was too big for him. I took Mike Mars when I was a manager, and he was my best player by a mile, but I wasn't a Premier League manager, so it was a different level. I get the same feeling with Harvey Elliott. The pitch becomes too big for him. His strength is not reading the game. His strength is reacting to things that happens. And that makes him just that split second slower than a lot of other people. See, I think the strength of some of our midfield players is the ability to feel where to be, where to move, yeah? Nick in, get there before anyone else. So the pitch never looks... So how do you see Harvey on the pitch, Trevor? Running around 100 mile an hour, yeah? That's how I see him on the pitch, yeah? Which, of course, is a great skill. He's very, very keen. But I see him running around on the pitch at 100 mile an hour because he just doesn't quite, he doesn't quite, I need to be there, and then, I need to be there. But the moment has gone. So I fully understand the support he gets from the fans, because nothing fans love more to see than a young player that gets everything and makes no bones about what it means to him to play for Liverpool. But I just wonder whether playing still in the Premier League, and he can still go in the Premier League and be a great player, but whether the elite Premier League and Champions League is for him, I'm not so sure. And
when
I compare him.
When you think about his skill set, Jan, it's inarguable that he's fantastic at ball retention. He's a really good passer, and yeah, he's very one-sided, but that has not hampered some of the best players ever to play the game. I wonder, do you see a situation where if he was more of the main man for someone, like if the attacking process was sort of filtered through Harvey, like we do with Mo Salah, for example, so he was constantly on the ball and using that passing ability and using that ball retention ability that he has, using that fantastic control that he has, all three things he has all of those. That's inarguable. Pace he doesn't have. Strength, not so much. As you said, the reading of the game, not so much. But in a situation where he didn't have to run around like a blue arse fly, where he was actually the pivotal point of an attack, maybe in a 10 role kind of thing or something like that, or more of someone through whom the ball is filtered, that could really be a situation where he might make his mark. But you reckon, am I getting this right, that if he's going to do that, it's probably not going to be at the top tier?
I don't know whether he'd be able to do that at any Premier League club. I'm not sure it necessarily helps Harvey Elliott to slow his game down, because I do think that he's comfortably playing at the pace that he plays at, because he's technically so very good. So yeah, possibly what you're suggesting is that he might be able to do it in the Championship, but the Championship is not for Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott's a Premier League player, you know what I mean? So I actually think that slowing his game down probably wouldn't help. I just think that what you see, Trevor, is kind of what you get. But when you drop, and there is a drop, I think he'll be okay, So not for me to say, but I'll say what I did when we started this conversation, Trevor. Players are at their happiest when they play, and how many players you've spoken to over the years who were at great clubs, hanging in, by the fingernails, and then all of a sudden they go somewhere, playing, main man, Trevor. You play for the smaller club, but it still means as much to them when they win as it does to Liverpool, isn't it? It means as much to their supporters. They might only have 30,000 in the stands where we have 60, but it means the same to them, doesn't it? So there is a different world out there. So if the club is leaving it to the player, that would make it interesting, wouldn't it? That will make it interesting.
Yeah. I think there's a possibility for some real money to come in for that guy. So
yeah, there will be. Yeah.